All right, so today we're diving into something, well, it's kind of fascinating, really. It's just this tiny little snippet of dialogue from like an English language learning course, you know?
Hmm.
A simple restaurant scene. We've got a waiter, Fabio, and a customer. But, and here's the thing, even in these few lines,
Hmm.
man, there's so much packed in there about how we communicate, all the assumptions we bring to the table. Literally.
It's amazing, right? Like, on the surface, it's a basic language lesson.
Mm-hmm.
But you start peeling back the layers,
Yeah.
and it's like this little microcosm of all the ways communication can go sideways, even when you're just trying to order dinner.
Exactly. Like, think about it. We've all been there, right?
Yeah.
At a restaurant, trying to get what you want, and somehow it feels off. Like, you and the waiter or the server aren't quite speaking the same language, even if you're both technically speaking English.
Absolutely. And that's what we're going to do today. Dissect this little restaurant encounter. Go beyond the English phrases themselves and see what it reveals about clarity, expectations, cultural differences, and, yeah, even politeness, which it turns out matters a lot, even when you're just hungry.
So much more than just a language lesson, right? This is about understanding how to navigate those subtle, unspoken parts of communication that can trip us up wherever we are.
Totally. Okay, so let's jump right in. The scene opens with Fabio, our waiter, greeting the customer. Very polite, almost formal, right? He says, "Good evening, my name is Fabio. I'll be your waiter for tonight. May I take your order?"
Very professional, setting the tone. But then the customer comes back with, no, I'm still working on it. This menu is not even in English. What's good here? Whoa, there's a shift.
Big time. It's like, bam, instant frustration. Maybe even a bit demanding.
Yeah, and that first phrase, still working on it. The source material actually points this out as a really useful phrase for English learners.
Super versatile. It basically just means you haven't finished something yet. You need more time.
Right. They gave some examples like, did you finish reading the magazine? I'm still working on it. Or, did you fix my car? I'm still working on it.
Exactly. You could use it in tons of situations.
So simple, but so handy. Okay, back to the restaurant. So Fabio, ever the helpful waiter, offers a suggestion. For you, sir, I would recommend spaghetti and meatballs.
Seems homeless enough. A
Yeah.
classic, right? But then,
Here it comes. The customer's reply is, does it come with Coke and fries?
and boom, right there, we hit a major point of clashing expectations. Coke and fries, as the source explains, it's like shorthand for Coca-Cola and French fries. It's super common, especially in like an American fast food context.
So the customer is coming in with this whole set of assumptions about what a normal meal includes.
Yeah, it's like their brain is automatically filling in the blanks based on their past experiences without even realizing it.
Which is something we all do, right? We walk into situations with these preconceived notions about how things are going to go. And
Sometimes those notions get totally blown out of the water. Like in this case, when Fabio clarifies, it comes with either soup or salad and a complimentary glass of wine, sir.
complimentary, meaning, as our source helpfully reminds us, free. But more importantly, it highlights this gap between what the customer expected as standard sides and what this restaurant actually offers.
It's such a small detail, but man, it speaks volumes, doesn't it? About how different cultural norms, different expectations can really shape an interaction.
Yeah, you're suddenly in different worlds.
Uh,
Okay, so the customer, after a beat, goes, I'll go with the spaghetti and meatballs, salad, and the wine. And the source material, helpfully for language learners, points out that I'll go with just means I'm choosing or I'll take. Again, another example of those subtle variations in how we say things.
totally. And Fabio, good waiter that he is, replies, "Excellent choice. Your order will be ready soon." Polite, efficient.
Textbook good service.
Right.
But that's not the end of it. The customer shoots back, how soon is soon?
Oh boy. Here we go. That question right there, it shifts the tone again. Like from simply inquiring to almost demanding a specific timeline.
Yeah, there's this impatience creeping in. It's palpable, even just reading the words.
Totally.
hmm
And Fabio, keeping his cool, gives an estimate, 20 minutes.
Which seems reasonable, right?
Yeah.
But then the customer just as bong, you know what? I'll just go grab a burger across the street. Another interesting phrase here, grab.
Yeah, the source explains that in this context, grab means to go get quickly, like casually, without a lot of fuss.
They give examples like, on your way home, can you grab some milk? Or, let's grab a cup of coffee. It implies this like quick, almost impulsive action.
And that's what's so jarring, right? The customer, after engaging with Fabio, asking questions, placing the order, suddenly decides to ditch it all for a burger. And it's not just about the food, it's about.
The whole vibe. It's like they weren't taking the interaction seriously, or maybe they didn't value Fabio's time and effort, like all that back and forth, and then boom, burger time.
It does make you wonder about the formality thing, too. The customer's approach was pretty casual, maybe even bordering on dismissive. And it's possible that Dujoy just didn't mesh with the, expected norms of this particular restaurant. Like maybe this was a slightly fancier place and the customer was just totally missing those subtle cues.
You can almost imagine Fabio's internal reaction, right? It's got to be frustrating. Not just the wasted time, but also this feeling of being disregarded. All his effort to be helpful, make recommendations, answer questions, and it's all brushed aside for a burger joint down the road.
So much to unpack from this one little interaction. And for our listeners, I think the most immediate takeaway here is about being clear in our communication. Making sure we're not just assuming things, but actually expressing our needs and expectations, especially when we're in new situations.
Absolutely. And it really highlights how cultural differences can play a huge role, even in something as basic as dining out. What one culture considers a standard part of a meal, like those fries the customer expected, might be completely different in another. Even the way menus are presented, the level of formality in the service, it can all vary so much.
Totally. But even beyond the cultural stuff, this interaction really highlights how important tone and politeness are, even in those super brief encounters. The customer's shift from those kind of demanding questions to the abrupt decision to leave. It really adds to the negative feel of the whole thing. And it reminds us that even when we're feeling frustrated or impatient, maintaining a respectful tone can make a world of difference.
Yeah, it's about recognizing that we're interacting with another human being and their time and effort matter. Zooming out even further, these kinds of mismatched expectations, these communication style clashes, they happen everywhere, not just restaurants. Think about working with colleagues from different backgrounds, navigating social situations with folks who have different communication preferences, even online interactions where tone can be so easily misconstrued.
So many potential pitfalls. Which brings us to a question for you, our listener. Think back to a time when you walked into a situation and your expectations just totally didn't match up with reality. It could be anything. A work project, a social gathering, even a conversation with a friend. What happened? How did it feel?
We've all been there, right? It's a universal experience.
Yeah.
The key is, what can we learn from it? So, quick recap of our restaurant deep dive. Clear, mindful communication is essential. Assumptions can really trip us up. And politeness, even when you're starving, goes a long way.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And now, final thought, something to chew on. Thinking back to that situation where your expectations went off the rails, what could you have done differently? How could being more aware of those subtle cues, being more upfront about your needs, asking clarifying questions, how could that have changed things? It's amazing how much we can learn from something as seemingly simple as ordering food, isn't it?
Food for thought, indeed.
All right, folks, that's it for this deep dive. Catch you next time.
See ya.